of Dipper. Dipper is a technology platform that guides professionals of color to a better workplace, one review at a time.
Dipper is your safe space. It is the time for you to share your voice with a community that you are a part of. Visit us and join today at OurDipper.com.
Welcome, welcome. How are you feeling today?
I'm good. This is a good week. MLK Day is approaching. Dr. Martin Luther King.
Yes.
We will be off. Maybe go to a parade, do some community service.
No, definitely community service for sure.
How's your week been?
I had to breathe for a second. My week has been beautiful, interesting, reflective. I want to say like a couple days ago, I had a moment in my car and I was just like, you know what, Netta, give yourself some grace and space because girlfriend, you have too much going on right now. And as you know, I took on this doctoral program and that's not going to be that bad. I've completed undergrad in 3 years before, the same with MBA, like early. And then I get into this first class, basic class, research methodology. And the class is not hard. It's just so much work, so many assignments. And I was like, oh Lord, what have I gotten myself into? You have to stop me, Jacinta. You have to stop me.
Girl, you did that. I'm with you. But Dr. Netta.
Come on now. Motivate me. That is right.
It sounds so good. No, but it's like catch and release, right? Like it's funny with the holidays and you got new stuff, you got gifts. Yeah. My family, we had like a little mini family meeting and I was like, something has to go. Like we bringing in all this new stuff. We need to also get rid of some things. And so I think it's that balance of like, yes, we're bringing in new stuff, but we also have to figure, like, we can't do it all. We're not,
You're so right.
We're not superheroes.
You're so right. And, I had to work on asking for help. I'm so bad at asking for help. So that's another thing I'm working on, but we have a hot topic today.
We do.
I'm really excited for it. The topic title is I'm the only, but not for long.
Not for long.
Not for long. What does that mean when you hear that topic title, Jacinta? What does that mean for you?
I mean, I think about circumstances when I felt like I've either been the only one, the only woman, the only Black person. And, the joy that I felt when I saw somebody else who looked like me and they also recognized like we were minorities in this space. And I think of like when we first met, we talk about this all the time, but like Netta and I met in the office. Literally, she was like doing her K-cup situation. I was at my desk, minding my business. And I was like, wait a minute.
What?
I got up immediately. I was like, oh, wait, whatever I'm doing, it can pause really quick because I've never met this young woman. And so I think when I think of it, I think of like acknowledging and like giving each other like a nod, a hello. Like we have our ways of acknowledging each other, which I think is awesome. And sometimes I think oftentimes the dialogue that in rhetoric that folks would love for us to hear is that we don't get along. And also like when we acknowledge each other, it's to come together and grieve and complain. But when really I think about that unity, it's often like celebration. It's like a high five, like a girl, like excellent job on that project. You crushed that meeting. Like sometimes nobody else will tell you that except someone who is looking like you.
Yeah. And you're spot on about that community, right? Being able to embrace each other. And you're right. When we speak about this all the time, when I saw you, it was like The Color Purple, that scene. You and me will never part, Nasi Dada. Like that was that moment. We could have played in that movie. But I
Yeah.
was just so excited to see you and look at us now. We are still together, clearly. We fell in love at first sight. Um,
Exactly.
when I think of, this particular topic title, I'm the only but not for long, I think about the creative ways and perspectives that those from marginalized groups have. And there is a Black sister that, and I'm forgetting her, I'm blanking on her name, but I'm going to have to put her name in the comment section once we're
Mhm.
done with this. But I believe she was probably one of the few, or maybe the only, right? And what she did was she created a background of other Black people looking like, so the background is like everyone's looking at you, and it's like, what did you say? What was that comment? And I thought that was just a beautiful way to create
Yeah.
your own fake community. So it's like, y'all don't want to bring or increase the representation here and ensure that you retain the representation here. I'm going to create this for myself. And can
Hmm.
you imagine how others may have felt? Right? Like, I'm talking right now, and these images are looking
Yeah.
at me like I'm crazy.
Yeah.
I thought that was really, really cool and creative.
And it's interesting because the working from home, like some folks are doing,
Mhm.
can be super isolating, right? So
Yeah.
it's like you may already be in an environment where you feel like you're the only, and then you're thrown into an environment, you're home.
Mhm.
For some people, being at home was actually like a safeguard. It was comforting because they no longer had to be in this large space where they felt isolated, and they felt more connected at home. Like, so that
Yeah.
was happening for people. And I think I saw some great articles kind of pop up throughout that period where it was talking about the difference in how, you know, Black and brown folks, how they're experiencing working from home differently than other people. Because, like, if for some people it has brought some safety, right?
Mhm.
So I think that's hilarious that that sister was like, I'm going to create a Zoom background with a bunch of other people
Right.
who, I mean, I some things I've done and found kind of helped me when I felt I was the only. So one thing was like acknowledgement when I saw someone else. I think
Mhm.
your point on like having some fun with it is good. Like
Mhm.
bringing some light to the moment, like having some fun with it, but also bringing visibility to it. Like I
Sure.
recognize like I'm the only person here.
Right.
Um, and I also think like connecting yourself with people outside of your immediate organization is
Mhm.
extremely valuable. Like, if you may be in a spot where you're like, I can't, not only am I the only like Latina and I'm the only woman, but I'm the only like data analyst in this org. Who
Mhm.
am I going to learn from?
Yeah.
Like, who's going to help me get better at like the function I was brought in here to do? And how am I going to grow?
Yeah.
And some of that, I think a lot of times we look to like our immediate employer to help support that effort, but there are steps we can take to kind of build a community beyond our immediate organization that could help us not feel like the only in all those senses. So,
Yeah.
and that could be seeking a mentor, seeking, and some of that is just in staying connected with people you've touched. Some of it is getting out of the house or even virtually attending a conference, right? So
Mhm.
that you can meet other people that can help like add value to what you're trying to build,
Mhm.
help you determine what path you want to go down, Dr. Netta. All of that.
Yeah. And I always say bring your community with you to
Oh,
your job. You know what I often tend to see is people don't bring anyone
mm,
with them, or I see the lack of introductions happening. And when you introduce someone, to that role or to that hiring manager, stick on them. No, no, this individual does have the capabilities, advocate for them so that they get in. right? And so that you can begin to create your own community. And I think that's really important. I know, at a lot of organizations, what people are doing is leaning on their ERG groups for that sense of community and maybe saying, okay, I don't quite identify from a race and ethnicity perspective, but here's how we connect, or here's how we intersect. Here's the action plan we're going for now, right? To increase this representation and make sure that there are more people that look like us, right? And then some people are then saying, similar to us, when we were like, hey, let's start our own business together, right? And I think that's another beautiful piece too. With having that community, you can start leaning on and being really creative in your approaches to expansions.
Yeah, no, that's spot on. And it's interesting. How do you, with ERG groups, like, do you feel that, I think we get asked a lot, like, well, how can I be an ally? How can I support? So I wonder, like, how are ways that people can acknowledge someone is the only without making them feel awkward, And I think something that stuck out to me when I asked myself that question, because I know it's going to come up, and I know people will ask as they see this, they will say, like, well, how can I, as an ally, like, support someone who is the only?
Right.
I think so much is, like, I would say the word sponsorship, and sometimes that sponsorship is an invitation, right? So whether it's a meeting, a conference, sharing, like providing access. A lot of times when you are the only, like you talked about, not making sure you don't, like, it's important to bring people along with you 100%. If you're on the other side and you are in the majority, a lot of times how you can help this person who is clearly like the lone person is by giving them an invitation, by giving them access is critical. Sometimes there's access and information that an individual should have that they don't. And so you being transparent about, like, what's out there is a way you can be a little activist in your org by helping this individual out in a big way.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. I love how you focus on sponsorship. Leave that person that is the only alone and just do the work. You've already identified. Don't go to that person and ask, well, how are you feeling? How does this make you feel? Can you share your story? No, absolutely not. We know Black History Month is coming around, and Women's Month is coming around. So there's a lot of women being polled, and a lot of Black identifying folks being polled as well to speak. And it should be more about the action behind it, and folks then saying, I'm going to do something this time. I know that you submitted this person's application, or this person was a part of the interview. I'm going to ask why, what happened, reevaluate. How can we ensure that person gets in, or pointing out that level of bias as well. So I think there's a lot, you're right. There's a lot that those that are practicing allyship can do to create the shift that needs to be. And, I always go back to, it's not simply about, okay, well, we have representation within the organization now. We have a few people. So, like, that's all. No, you want to measure the impact of how are people growing?
Yeah.
What types of opportunities are they being exposed to? What are some of those gaps? And then once you identify that, start asking those hard questions to leaders within the organization. I'm a big fan of the power of people and numbers, the amount of people, and when you have a community of people and from all backgrounds raising an issue saying, hey, we want answers, we want this fixed, you will see it fixed. But if no one's saying anything and there's not a network of people doing that, then you won't see the shift.
Yeah, 100%. And it's that network of people is not just the folks that are in the small group of like underrepresented people, but also the people who have a voice and are represented. Like that's awesome. And I appreciate you called out, like, don't ask that person that is the only to do more work.
No,
Like that's
please don't
it's
do it.
it's so frustrating to me when it's like you and then do more work for free.
Yeah. Well, it's trauma
Like,
too, because
you know?
what it does is it then puts
Yeah.
that person in the position of, well, how can I say no? If I
Yeah.
say no, and really I'm the only person here, of this background, then what's now the new kind of perspective that's put
Yeah.
on, a label that's put on me? How difficult does it get? What's the retaliation of me not then accepting this? I
Yeah.
think there's so much baggage that comes with it, even for the folks that are well-meaning and saying, hey, can you take this on? I think it'll be good. Think about what you're asking that person to take on. And I'm not saying that,
Yeah.
I am a big fan of slightly stepping out of scope within the
Mhm.
workplace. And I don't mean doing the office housework and taking on all those planning of the events and party and whatever. But I mean taking a look at the work that you do, that you were hired for, and asking yourself, well, how can I take this to the next level? And if I were to take it to the next level, where would I be?
Mhm.
And oftentimes I think people take a look at, well, I want to take it to the next level, but they don't factor the piece, okay, what happens for me?
Right.
What measurement am I set up in the accountability measure? And if that doesn't happen, then am I willing to walk away?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
that's really important.
Yeah. Yeah. Am I willing to just like bounce because that's
I've
it?
set this up. I've gone out of, and they call it in the corporate startup world exceeding expectations. I've
Yeah.
exceeded the expectations here based on what was, what's in this, what's required. Uh,
Yeah.
I took it to the next level. Now, what does this mean for me and my
Yeah.
growth?
Yeah. No, absolutely. It's funny to me, like we're both moms,
Mhm.
and it's hilarious. It's funny and sad that you see this happening with kids too. Like I think I remember this book, and it is an old book, and I cannot recall the author offhand. I'll look it up
Mhm.
and put it in our notes for this episode on YouTube. But I believe it's called "Why Do All the Black Kids Sit Together in the
Mm,
Cafeteria?"
yeah.
And really breaking down like the psychology behind like why being the only, like the impact that being the only one makes, and then the impact of seeing yourself and like other people and like that community as well, and that importance. And I see that in my own child's life. It's really funny, so I
Mhm.
like she showed me a picture of like her best friend group at
Mhm.
school. And
Aw.
I was like, this is like 50% of the brown population.
Tori made sure to get everybody.
I was like, how did that happen? Like, yeah. So it's real. And so I think it's not only like when you are the only, not being afraid to step out, make that acknowledgement, but also make your voice known, being funny about it. It's fine to do
Mhm.
that. Like we love to laugh, and I think laughter helps people address like things that are controversial or uncomfortable or can be sticky that they may not know how to talk about, but
Mhm.
we know how to talk about it. It's our life,
Mhm.
and so, and then also being okay. I think what you pointed out is like saying no and not having to do that extra work, but doing the extra work when you feel it's important, right?
When it's
And
beneficial, yeah,
mhm.
yeah.
Yeah.
I cannot believe that we are almost out of time.
I know. And I can't see all the comments and how many people and all that because I'm in a room with very bad poor Wi-Fi connection.
Yeah,
But I really appreciate everyone joining us and sharing and uh, spending a little break with us today.
yeah, and as always, head to ourdipper.com. So that's OurDipper. Submit your reviews. We want to start guiding each other to better workplaces, one review at a time. we have the power to do that, right? And that's what we can contribute. And those of you that are tuning in and you're practicing allyship, head to the HR person or the DEI person right now. Stop everything. It's okay. Leave. Wait after you get this message though. And right? And say, hey, we need Dipper's platform in our company. We need them as a third party so that folks, especially from marginalized groups, have the ability to grow, have the ability to advance in their careers here. And because we understand the reality of this is not everyone is going to have their own business. Some of us will be working for organizations, and that no one's going to be side-eyeing that. But what we want to know is that you're protected and you have the ability to grow if that's the route that you're taking. So now you can run to HR and DEI.
Yes, your emotional safety, your wellness in the workplace, it all matters.
It sure does. It sure does.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. Well, you take care and have a great day. Bye.
All right, bye.